Welcome to Don't Quote Me on That. One day we will have an intro, but today is not that day.
Hello, everybody. If you're watching this, you're watching this. I recorded this episode at home last night, and I just was not thrilled with it. So we're gonna do a take two, and we'll see what comes out the best. But I also do have things to do called go to work, so we are multitasking. Um, don't text and drive, all that jazz. Oh, I didn't even do my intro. Hello, hello, hello. I'm Kalina. Welcome back to Don't Quote Me on That, where we kind of talk about movies. We is me. Movies is driving to work while talking about A Lesson in Romantics by Mayday Parade. I have had a few Mayday Parade songs on my playlist for ages now. I do think about 90% of them are off of this album. I am our resident emo, I guess we would say. Um, I listen to a wide variety of music, but it is very rock heavy. So a lot of pop punk is in there. That's what I listen to. And I truly believe in that post that's like the music you listen to at 13, 14, 15 will haunt you for the rest of your life, because it's what I keep returning to. But back to the topic at hand. This week I'm diving into A Lesson in Romantics by Mayday Parade. It is their debut studio album. Mayday Parade had a pretty interesting start. They formed in 2005 in Tallahassee, Florida. They were formed by merging two bands together. These two bands, if I remember correctly from my very intense research, which is reading a Wikipedia article and some YouTube comments, these two bands were practicing in the same space, and they were like, it kind of makes more sense for us to join forces rather than divide and conquer. The two bands were A Kid Named Chicago and Defining Moment, which created this six-person lineup of Jason Lancaster on lead vocals and guitar, Derek Sanders on vocals, Alex Garcia on guitar, Brooks Betts on guitar, Jeremy Lenzo on guitar, and Jeremy Lenzo on bass, and Jake Bundrick on drums. They released an EP in 2006, I believe, 2005, 2006, called Tales Told by Dead Friends. They got attention, and then they were signed by Fearless Records. They released A Lesson in Romantics under Fearless Records after doing the 2007 Warped Tour. So this album was written while they were on their first tour, Warped Tour. A Lesson in Romantics specifically released the 10th of July 2007, and this is a 12-track pop punk / emo album. I would call it like quintessential pop punk. You think of a pop punk song, a pop punk band, Mayday Parade to me is what comes to mind. For the sake of this episode, I'm going to take you through the narrative that I feel this album follows and a couple themes that really stood out to me and that I think helped this album stand out. I don't know who said this, but I'd seen this quote in a couple different articles when I was doing the background for this episode. And this album it was written while they were on tour, so it's about being in a relationship while you're on tour and like the hardships that come along with that and that distance. And the really interesting thing about this album, or at least about the band at this period in their career, is that after this album was recorded, so like before they even did music videos for it or promo or anything, Jason Lancaster left the band, and he cited issues with songwriting credits, essentially. So he said, my understanding is he didn't feel he was getting enough songwriting credits for the songs on the album. And as we get into it, there's a few songs where I'm really interested to see what that breakdown of like composer was specifically, because I think it does lend to the story that's being told. But as I said, this album is about being in a relationship while you're on tour and the hardships that come along with that. So I believe that narratively throughout these 12 tracks, we follow essentially the beginning of a relationship when, like, I guess in this case, the lead singer, the guy, first goes on tour to the eventual end of the relationship because of the strain it was put under while on that tour. There's some other themes that reoccur, but I think that's the clearest, most consistent through line in this album. So starting with the first track, which is arguably, or I don't even think arguably, one of their most popular tracks, and that is Jamie All Over. And with Jamie All Over, we're immediately hit with a question about songwriting credit, and can kind of understand how this became an issue, because Jason Lancaster was in A Kid Named Chicago. So remember, Mayday Parade was two bands that formed into one. A Kid Named Chicago was one of them, and that was Jason Lancaster's band. Jamie All Over is a song originally by A Kid Named Chicago. Mayday Parade just re-recorded it for this album. So I think it's both really interesting but also really smart to start the album out with a fresh song, in the sense that another song on this album, which is a few tracks later, was on their EP. But instead of starting with one of the first songs they wrote together as a band, they started with the song that was written by parts of the band. You're opening your album with something fresh for anyone who may have bought that EP, Tales Told by Dead Friends. I think Jamie All Over, very, very solid album opener. It sets the tone, again, that quintessential pop punk sound. It's very upbeat, sad sounding lyrics, but it draws you in. If I had never heard Mayday Parade before, I would still want to keep listening to this song. In the context of about being in a relationship while you're on tour, I think this is the beginning of the tour. He is kind of missing this girl that he's left at home. For every song on this album, I also picked my favorite line, and this one I think really cuts to the heart of what this song is about. And he says, my favorite line of this song is, "Please don't tell me that I'm dreaming when all I ever wanted was to dream another sunset with you." So, one, really calling to mind the imagery that I think reoccurs pretty often throughout this album, which is beach, sand, that sort of vibe. Again, they're from Florida, so this makes sense, but also then keeping in mind this Vegas, California sort of connection is connecting these two coasts almost, and I guess connecting him and her in a way. Instrumentally, I think it's very good. Throughout this whole album, I feel like the drum really, really drives the sound of this album. I feel like and I mean, I think that's true for all bands. The rhythm section really does drive the genre your music will veer into. But here, I feel like the drums were very, very present. They're very solid throughout this album, and I would have liked to hear this with a heavier sound. I just think that'd be fun for me personally. But I think the drums help give a very, very stable foundation. The bass as well. That rhythm section gives a very stable foundation for this album and for this band. That then gives our three guitar players and our two vocalists a lot to work off of. And with having the two vocalists, I think throughout this album they function almost as kind of in the same way a lead guitar and a rhythm guitar function, as one of them serves as this another solid bass for then the other vocalist to riff off of. I also think this is a really great crowd song. I've seen clips of it being performed live online. The entire room just kind of lights up. It's so fun to yell. I think having a crowd song is really important as a band, especially off your first album, because when you then go do a headline, your first headline tour, your first major moment, because I guess on Warped Tour, I would assume they were performing just stuff off the EP, given that this hadn't come out yet. So I just think it's really, really good to have a crowd song, because if nothing else, when you're performing live, you have something in your back pocket you can fall back on. It's almost like having a good cover in your set list as well. It's just something that the audience can connect with no matter how well they know you. Mayday Parade, I don't think, has a single song that is not sad, but not every song sounds like the most devastating thing you've ever heard. They save that, for one or two an album, which is nice. So that's Jamie All Over. He says at the end, in the song, he says, "down and to the left," whatever. And at the end, he kind of leaves it off with "down and to the left" and kind of draws it out. I can't sing, but he kind of draws it out, and it kind of feels like almost unfinished, I would say. So yes, he's left, but this thing between us isn't over. So that's Jamie All Over. Next track, which I think is this is one, without a doubt, one of my favorite Mayday Parade songs. I just think it's crafted very, very well, the whole concept. And that is Black Cat. And Black Cat brings up the themes that I mentioned earlier that I realized I never told you what they were. Those two themes in this album as a whole are a long distance relationship / cheating. So a little bit of a spoiler. And kind of viewing your romantic relationship through an artistic lens, or as an artistic endeavor, I would say. So Black Cat is written as though we're filming a movie. These two characters, the male love interest, female love interest, are filming a movie, and that is their relationship. And this comes out throughout the rest of the album as well. but it's done the most obviously, and I think the best here. So the opening line of Black Cat is close up camera one, the hero sings in this scene. So the hero is obviously our band member, our male love interest, male protagonist. Here in this song, we do unfortunately get a little bit lost in terms of diction, and because we have two vocalists, it's almost like extra frustrating because it's not just one of them that isn't clear. I also don't know vocally like who's who, so I'm just gonna refer to like the lines they sing. I don't know if it's Derek or Jason, but yeah, just I feel like diction could be improved a little bit. I know this song word for word just because I've heard it so many times, but I don't think it was that clear on my first listen through. But I do, however, very, very, very much appreciate a commitment to a bit or to a theme, and they go all in with this. Like I said, it starts out close up camera one. The hero sings in this scene. But Mayday Parade does a really good job of throwing a line in the middle of a song that is just like cuts to the bone and then not even giving you a chance to breathe. It's not like they sing it at the end of the bridge and like give you a second before they go back into the chorus. They throw it in there. They go, "Hope you get over that," and then move on. That line in this song for me, and my favorite line in this song, is "Your inspiration is the loss of absolutely everything." So I think this is in terms of our narrative structure of this relationship. He's on tour. He has he knows he's starting to lose, if not his girl specifically, the relationship they at the very least used to have when they were together physically. So things are starting to shift. He's starting to see the cracks in the foundation. I also think, kind of touching on the beginnings of fame that I mentioned in Jamie All Over, we get a little bit of that concept. We also get a little bit of the concept of dating a narcissist, is how I phrased it or kind of realized it, because he sings about the actress in the movie in the context of this song and says that basically she's saying, "Get your hands off of my star. It's not your part, but all your fault." And this jealous actress has a habit of making things sound way too tragic. So, like, she's very much like, we're putting the onus on her. In present day, we're much better about being like, this was my fault, this was your fault. Like, taking the blame to then recognize where someone else needs to take the blame. Whereas in this album, in this song, and late in this album, it's very much like, that's all on her. I didn't do anything wrong, you know? So that's Black Cat. Stunning song. Again, I just love a commitment to a bit. I haven't heard enough of Mayday Parade's other stuff to say that this is their best album, but I think for a debut studio album, this is like crazy strong and really, really good. Very clear vision that they're going with here, and I would pick this song as like the clearest example of those things. So then we roll right into track number 3, which is When I Get Home, You're So Dead. First note I have is actually, again, about the diction. I think one, which it's one of the vocalists, again, I don't know who's who, but he talks about, like, not talks about, he says, "Because baby, you weren't the first or the last or the worst." It does not sound like he's saying you weren't. It sounds like he's saying, "Baby, you were the first and the last and the worst," which give two very different messages. But I do, at the end of the day, still absolutely love this song. We're still getting that very black and white view. He talks about girls make boys cry. So kind of generalizing this statement. I also feel like this song is the point in a relationship where she's starting to actively do things to the detriment of him and their relationship, but he's trying to justify it and like work with her because he loves her and he wants to be with her. But she's like, she's cheating on him essentially. So back to my theme of long distance relationship cheating. He says, "Say hello to all the boys on the top of this table that you're under. Lipstick lullabies. This is sorry for the last time." So like they've gone back and forth on this a few times. He's forgiven her. He can only do that so many times. And one thing this song does, and I think everybody knows this song does, is it has like a generational bridge slash breakdown. It's insane. It's the two vocalists. I think this is the clearest example of what I was talking about earlier, with one of them being lead vocal, one of them being rhythm vocal. So it starts, the first part of the bridge is, "And your name remains the same. All that has changed is this pretty face." And then we loop back into that again, but now we have the second vocalist kind of rapping almost, for lack of a better phrase or word about that delivery. It says, "So pull the trigger, it never gets closer. Want to start over, you want to start over." I'm not doing this justice, but if you know, you know. But I like it because we have your name remains the same. All that has changed is his pretty face. The second time we hear that line, he's really drawing it out. Like he's been very theatrical, very not theatrical, like really stretching his vocal ability on the second delivery, while this now rap delivery, these second lines kind of layer over them as a steadier beat to follow, if that makes sense. Please go listen to When I Go Home, You're So Dead. I also identified something with the song titles. One, as we go throughout this album, they get more and more like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, School of Thought. But also, I feel like the song titles, while they're not in the songs themselves, it feels like they're speaking directly to the other half of this relationship. It's like, when I get home, you're so dead. He's like, when I, like, yes, you're cheating on me. Yes, you're doing all these things. But when I get home, we're going to deal with this. And it's not going to be good for you, babe. All right? We're rolling into track number 4, which is Jersey. This is another one of Mayday Parade's most well-known tracks. I think it's really, really cool that it ended up being so many back-to-back, but that does come into play when you're listening to that latter half of the album, but we'll get into that later. Jersey. Fantastic crowd song. This song has 2 lines that I really enjoy and that highlight 2 things I really, really like. One specifically in this album, which is that theme of a romantic relationship as an artistic endeavor, an artistic expression. But 2, in general, I really like when songs have a line that they take later on in the same song and turn on its head. In this case, the line is, let's write a song that they can dance to because they all want to hear it. And then later in the song, he says, let's write a song that we can sing to, and you can lead the choir and put the hook where it hurts most. Sorry, I had to sing it in my head to connect the dots on that one. He's giving her some power in that second part, saying, you can lead the choir, but also he says, you can put the hook where it hurts most. So she has the power to hurt him. And he is recognizing that he's almost giving it to her, but they're also at the same time trying to build something that, the way I see it, holds up under strain of other people in the phrasing of, let's write a song that they can dance to because they all want to listen. Obviously, I think based on where we are, based on the songs we've heard so far, their relationship isn't holding up very well. She is out on the town, let's say, and he's having a very hard time coming to terms with that, but he is trying to forgive her. Also, with the title of the song, we're kind of covering our bases. We're going, so they're on Warped Tour. They're writing this while they're on the road. We are doing like a tour of America. In the first song, we talk about Vegas. He talks about California. In this song, like, it's called Jersey. Jersey just got colder. So, one, by saying Jersey just got colder, we're not only setting like the physical scene, but we also kind of get an idea what time of year it is. I feel like it's like a really easy calling card to use fall and winter, like the seasons changing, things getting colder, as an emotional turning point, because people can, no matter where you live, I feel like winter in general really does heighten like it has a very specific set of emotions attached to it. So wherever you live, even here, like in Florida, it really doesn't get that cold. It's 81 degrees right now, and this is like our winter. We had a cold front last week that was like 74 degrees. So I mean, I'm chilly, I got a jacket on, but even in winter, like, the time just changed, the sun is setting already, and I'm like, this is kind of crazy. Like, I don't really want to, I'm kind of bummed out by the time 5 p.m. rolls around because it's dark outside already. So I really like that emotional calling card of Jersey just got colder. I think above all else, this song is very cathartic because, as devastating as it is, like I said, it's a great crowd song. It's a song you can scream by yourself, you can scream at a concert, you can scream in your car, which I probably have done a time or two, and just really let out all your emotions associated with whatever disappointment or tension you're experiencing. And then we flow right into track number 5 we're on now, which has perhaps one of my favorite titles of a song ever, that is, If You Wanted a Song Written About You, All You Had to Do Was Ask. A bit of a tough pick for me between this and Black Cat, but I would have to say this is my favorite song on the album. I have heard it entirely too many times, if that's possible. And a big part of the reason I love this song so much is because it just opens with this phenomenal bass line, and we all know that I am a lover of bass first and a person second. This song also has what is probably one of my favorite lines in the entire album, and also links back to that theme of your relationship is art, and that is, you screamed the bridge and I cried the verse, and our chorus came out unrehearsed, and you smiled the whole way through it. I guess maybe that's what's worse. I picked I guess maybe that's what's worse as my favorite lyric because I didn't feel like it was fair to put so many bars as my favorite lyric, but just that whole section I think is really, really powerful. That for me is like that devastating line that kind of hits you out of nowhere. It's at the end of the second verse. So again, like throughout these last two songs, they've created a song that is their relationship, and we're trying to get it to hold up under the scrutiny of other people, the world, the strains of our relationship while I'm on tour, but also through like what I need out of a relationship. And I feel like in this song, he's trying really, really hard to forgive her transgressions, and he's like not really able to look past it anymore. And she is taking on a more and more active role in the destruction of this relationship. Like he says, you screamed the bridge, I cried the verse. So like he's sad about it. She is equally emotional, but in a different way because she's screaming. And then you smiled the whole way through it. So like you are still enjoying yourself, and he thinks that just makes all of this hurt so much more because it's not just, oh, you're suffering under the strains of our relationship, of our long distance relationship that we have right now, but also you're actively enjoying the process of our relationship ending. Meanwhile, he's out here in cold New Jersey suffering, and like I don't blame him. I'd be extra sad if I was cold and in New Jersey. I think I said this earlier, but Mayday Parade is very, very good at like crafting or like creating very visual lines that are just really, really good imagery in these songs. In the chorus, he says, "I hope you like your pictures facing down, because even broken hearts may have their doubts." So like he's ready to be over with this, but broken hearts still have their doubts. He would still like to go back to her. He wishes things didn't end this way. But also I like that imagery of, I hope you like your pictures facing down. It's like I can't even stand to look at you because you hurt me so badly, but also because I'd be willing to forgive you if I looked at your face too long. Which is really pretty romantic if you think about it. So remember how I said earlier that every Mayday Parade song is sad, but they have one or two an album that just really like leaves you no room to hide from how devastating it is. This next song is that. This is Miserable at Best, which is a piano ballad. I would argue top two most popular Mayday Parade songs. Stunning, beautiful, perfectly placed in this album. We're at the halfway point. As I mentioned earlier, this is a 12-track album. Track number 6, they hit us with a piano ballad. We were like, wait a second. We were having a poppy, fun, if emotionally confusing time, and now I'm going to bawl my eyes out. We also do finally get a Florida mention, so go us. It is Ocala. I don't know what's happening in Ocala, but go Ocala. There's a very specific type of sadness associated with missing your home and where you grew up, and it's cold outside, as we know, and he's missing his girlfriend and the relationship that he thought they had or could have had. So the homesickness in that simple line of Ocala is calling, even though they are from Tallahassee, really does pack a sucker punch that this song didn't need because it was already sucker punching you in the face. The things that make this song very, very beautiful and very, very powerful do, however, highlight some problems in the previous tracks, which is they're like entirely too crowded in terms of just like musically in general. Like there's too many, like there's just too much happening in guitar wise. I think that the drums are very, very strong in this album as a whole. I really do like the drums, but everything gets lost because there's too many things happening. They don't really give one specific component of the song a chance to be the guiding force and everything work around that. It feels like everything is trying to like have its moment to shine. Vocally, I think when they let each other breathe, when they give each other that space, it works really well, but they don't always give that space. I do think the obvious choice for favorite lyric in this song is the chorus, the end of the chorus, because I can live without you, but without you I'll be miserable at best, which I will give you. It does hit you hard. But for me personally, the line that hits the hardest is, I know I'm good for something, I just haven't found it yet. It comes in the pre-chorus almost. It feels like he's still trying to reason with her and rationalize how they got to where they are. without actually getting to speak to her, and just feeling like, God, I know like one day I'm gonna get past this and things are gonna be so, so good, but I'm not there now, and that's hard. And I love a song that can take something that is so emotional but so personal, like the end of a relationship, and relay it in such a way that it becomes very general. It might tap on the same, like, might touch on the same emotions, but not necessarily the same scenario for everybody. This song is where I really identified that these two vocalists can work as a lead guitar and rhythm guitar, essentially. That towards the end, I think it's Lancaster who is doing the like emotional parts. I'll call him the rhythm guitar. Sorry, I'll call him the lead guitar. Is they'll say the line, so I can live without you, but without you I'll be miserable. I can live without you, but without you, so like that second part, but without you I'll be miserable, is just delivered with a bit more punchiness than the first half of the line is. And I think they play off of each other really, really well in this song. And I really would love to see the path this band would have taken had Lancaster stayed in the band. Okay, next up in our track listing, we've got Walk on Water or Drown. This, we're now into the half of the album I don't know as well, so definitely some fresh takes, I hope. That was the hardest part about the first half of the album, was trying to come up with thoughts I haven't had before. And also, when I've heard an album too many times, or like I already have songs in my playlist, a lot of my thoughts are, this song's really good. So I was kind of excited to delve into this second bit of the album. So Walk on Water or Drown brings us right back in, energy wise. It brings the levels right back up. We start off with really, really strong drums and guitar. Again, from this point on, I do feel, for lack of a better word, a little overwhelmed or overstimulated almost when listening to these songs. I feel like there's a lot of components that just cannot possibly work together that well all of the time. I do think they work together well for most of the song, but there's always going to be a moment where something's a little bit jarring or just not lining up well for me. As I said, I really enjoyed the drums in this album. I think they provide a really solid base for the rest of the songs to work off of. And I would have loved to hear if they had gone with, like, what these songs would have sounded like had they gone with a heavier, more, I want to say, like hardcore metal, or more traditional punk drum sound even. I think that's really the driving force of the genre that this album and band ended up taking. I do think, I mean, they slot into pop punk very well with poppy sound, sad lyrics, but I would have loved to see like a little bit of shift in the drums. That being said, the song really does put the pop in pop punk. Very upbeat, very fun. And I feel like that connects to where we are in terms of our story. It feels like he's gone back to the relationship and he's thrilled. Like, he wanted this so bad, as we've discussed. He wanted it, but knew it wasn't the best for him. But it's not like, I feel like he's decided to go back to her, give this relationship another try. And I think we also shift in terms of that black and white thinking I discussed earlier, where it's not so much that every action or every reason that the relationship ended was solely because of her. He's almost subconsciously kind of taking some blame for it. So he's like, we're going to try this again, see if we can make this work. My favorite line in the song is, God, please let this take. So this song really puts the pop and pop punk. We're back up. We're upbeat again. And I think in terms of the story we're following, it makes sense because I interpret this as he's gone back to the relationship. He's gone back to his girlfriend. And he just really wants it to work this time. He knows like the breakup wasn't the best, how it ended wasn't the best. I also think that midway point to now is a shift in that black and white thinking we discussed earlier. So it's not all on the girl as to why the relationship ended. So he's willing to make some allowances to try and make this relationship work. He just wants it to work so badly. My favorite line in this song is, God, please let this take, which isn't even like, it almost feels like a throwaway line in the song. You don't really notice it, but I was reading the lyrics while I was listening to it, and I think compared to the earlier half of the album, not as strong of a song. It's not one that has, I would say, as much staying power as a Miserable at best. When I Get Home You're So Dead, a Jersey. But solid song overall, and I think a really good follow up to Miserable at Best. What's up? It's dark now. Thank you, Daylight Savings Time. We're moving very quickly on to track number 7, which is Ocean and Atlantic. So, again, we're getting our beach, our sea, our sand imagery, which I really, really like. I think, as I said earlier, they're a very visual band, and I love a through line. I keep using that word, but I just love when there is something consistent throughout all these different points that really help. I think I think like crystallize a band's intention and the space they work from creatively. Working from that artistic lens theme again, he says that singing never got her very far. And basically in this song he's saying like, I know this is not going to work out for her, but I have to let her go to do this. Like, it's just definitely in my best interest to let her go and let her learn for herself. As I said, they're a very visual band. One of my favorite line in this song, I think, is some of their finest work in terms of that. He says, "This whole coast is just full of pinup paper rock stars," which I think one creates a fun little image in your mind of like cut up paper people, but also it relates, like, it does a really good job of conveying this message that she's running off to something that's not real and that's going to let her down. It's going to fall apart like a piece of paper. I think this song also explores this idea of love being something that makes you feel like a star, essentially. So again, he's gone off on tour. He's living this rock star dream almost, and she's looking for something that kind of creates a similar feeling in her. Because in the first verse or the first chorus, he says, "So she's gonna run until her feet don't touch the ground." So she's running off to what she thinks is going to bring her happiness and peace and everything she's been looking for. And then later on in the second verse he says, "So I'll run until my feet don't touch the ground." So they're both in very similar places, but in very different ways and in very different contexts. When I first listened to this song, I thought it was kind of incongruent in terms of the story of their relationship. I couldn't tell where it fit in. At first it felt like he was cheating. I don't know. I didn't really understand it, but after a few more listens, I do think I am pretty settled on, like, okay, they've tried the relationship again, and this time he like has to let her go again for his own sake, rather than holding on to her while she's actively harming him. He's got to let her go before any actions she takes reflect on him or affect him directly, essentially. It also feels as though he's writing a warning letter almost to both her, but also the person she's running off to. It says, "She'll be a secret you can keep, so keep me." And throughout this, there's always just this bit of regret of how the relationship is ending that he can never let go of. And I think understandably, he wants her to keep him. He wants something to keep him, something to like be worth it and make him feel unreal in the same way she's searching for. And there's this really fun guitar riff that I couldn't describe in any other way as like Disney Channel esque. It got really poppy, but in a really really good way. I really enjoyed it. I think it's like halfway through the final chorus. That's just fun. Added a little element. I think it was a good example of the instrumental side of this album. Again, it has a tendency to feel a little crowded, a little muddled. So I think that was a really good use and a really clear direction. We wrap up Ocean and Atlantic and we get into another really, really great song title off this album, which is I'd Hate to Be You When People Find Out What This Song Is About. Acoustically, I do think it's weirdly placed in this album. I just don't love the sound of it at this point. We came off of Miserable at Best not that long ago. I feel like this sort of sound, it's a little bit slower. It does feel a bit ballady and acoustic, even though it's really not, but like it does kind of give that feel compared to the rest of the album, which has a much heavier sound by comparison. And so I just wish we had gotten it a little bit later in the listing. I still think it's a good song, but in terms of crafting an album as a whole, I feel like a better job could have been done with song placement. The drums in this song definitely take it's very like hi-hat cymbal heavy, especially at the beginning. And I feel like we fully shifted out of that black and white style of thinking, placing blame fully on his partner that we discussed. I think he's taking some blame onto himself. He says, "I'm sorry, this wasn't easy when I asked you to believe me." It's like he knows that while he may not have done anything actively wrong or as wrong as maybe she did to him, a relationship is at the end of the day two people, and two people played a part in the end of it. I hate to say it like this, but honestly, I feel like this album, if this song wasn't on it, this album wouldn't have changed very much. And it's a hard thing to say because I like this song. I think it serves, it serves its function, but it's just this song is full of such strong. Sorry, this album is full of such strong songs. Like I think their most famous songs are all on this album. All right, in the home stretch, final three tracks. Next one is "Take This to Your Heart." I think the song title is fun because it's like, take this to your heart, listen to what I'm saying to you. And as I said in the last song, he says, when I asked you, believe me. So it's just kind of like one final plea. Please believe what I'm saying to you. I do like to personally view this as him entering a new relationship because I feel like we've tried it with the other girl. It very clearly doesn't work, brother. We need to let that go. But it could technically be him returning to her and like coming home or going to a person that feels like home. But for my own mental sanity and his as well, I think it should be a new partner. And this definitely feels like someone who has grown as a person, has finished a character arc in their life, so to speak, because he says, I can't tell you what I don't know, which is also my favorite line in this song. I just really love that sort of honesty. Something we say in my family very often is it's all right to say you don't know if you don't know. So he's like, look, I can't tell you what I don't know. I can't make promises that I don't know if I can keep, but take this to heart. Blah blah blah. Also, I actually do think this is in fact their best bridge. Scrap whatever I said before. Every time I hear this bridge, I go, oh my goodness, like how do I not remember this? This is so strong and solid. And I also think like a really, really good example of like Mayday Parade. If I wanted to introduce Mayday Parade to someone, I need to remember to put this song on the list purely for the bridge. And something I find difficult, especially when doing these episodes, is sometimes when a part of a song is so good and so impactful, it does it in a way that's really, really hard to articulate. Like, I cannot explain to you in words right now what about this bridge makes it so moving, essentially. But I just need you to know that it is, and go listen to the bridge of Take This to Heart. I do, however, wish they pulled back the guitars a little bit here. But again, that's just something that after listening to a piano ballad like Miserable at Best, I like their stripped down instrumentals better. And also just to bring it up because I'm a hater. We still need to work on our diction though, guys. I'm very, very glad I live in the world where lyrics are on Spotify or I can Google lyrics and listen to the song at the same time and just have everything in front of me, because I otherwise maybe wouldn't have found this song so powerful. Despite all this growth we have achieved, or this narrator has achieved, we are still a little sad, okay? We gotta be a little emo. That is the genre. That is the nature of this album. So the next track we've got is Champagne's for Celebrating, I'll Have a Martini, which, if I remember correctly, is a quote from Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So I like that we've continued this artistic theme, this media theme throughout the entire album, not just in the lyrics, but in the song title as well. It also does give you like a very clear view as to where the tone in this album's gonna go, or in this song is gonna go. Oh, there we go. It gives you a very clear. And then not finally. It does feel like she is leaving him this time. So this new relationship, the girl's leaving him. He is caught on earlier and is letting her go, even though he doesn't think it's going to work out for her. Because he says something along the lines of like, the man she's running off to be with thinks this is going to be a one-time thing. And it's her fault she hasn't caught on yet, is the line. So, he's lived a little, he's learned a little. It also reminds me of this quote where someone said, I was talking to a friend once, and they said basically advice they had received one time was that if you are meeting your partner at 50% and they're asking more of you, it's not really fair to either one of you to stay in that relationship, because I'm giving 100%, My partner is asking for what they think is the bare minimum. It's not fair to ask me to give 110%, but it's also not fair to ask the partner to lower their standards. So if you all can't meet in the middle in that way, you have to just find people who you're more compatible with. And the way that translates in this song is kind of like a parallel in the song that I talked about. I liked in the lines, because early in the song he says, "It's nights like these I wish I'd said don't go," and then later in the song he says, "You're walking down a road that I can't go." So he wants to reach out, he really wants to make this work, but knows that for his own sake he can't. So you just need to call it early and let her go and let her learn for herself what that relationship is gonna end up being like. We have reached the end. We've reached the end of the day. As you can see, we've reached the end of this album. We've reached the end of my thoughts. I think the closer on this album is, "You'll be the anchor that keeps my feet on the ground. I'll be the wings that keep your heart in the clouds." I don't love this song title. I don't think it flows off the tongue as well as some of the other ones. I know they're all kind of wordy, but this one just feels, I think it just feels a little cliche and not in a fun way. But I can't appreciate the artistic liberties we're taking here, okay? So this is a second ballad on this album, but we do have like a full band. It's not a piano ballad. What makes this song so powerful and what I believe to be the perfect album closer is that it takes the major themes and points from the rest of the album and consolidates them very, very well, and then it loops very, very well back into Jamie All Over. I listened to this on Spotify, so I had the little loop function on, and when this song ended, Jamie All Over started right after, and the transition I thought was very seamless. In terms of referencing the previous songs on the album, we have a bit of a callback to Jersey, because in Jersey he says, "I'll have you know I'm scared to death that everything that you had said to me was just a lie until you left." And in "You'll Keep My Feet on the Ground," he says, "I was nearly scared to death of why you left in paragraphs." So again, we've gone on this journey. At first he was actively scared to death, and now he knows better, and those kind of ghosts and fears don't ever truly leave you, but he does know how to handle them better. So I did like that reference, especially because it is back to the start of the album. There is also what I believe to be a connection to Ocean and Atlantic, because as we remember, my favorite line in that song is "Pin up paper rock stars," and in this song he says, "Everyone here make believe." So still we're on that search to find someone real, find someone that makes us feel real and feels grounded. I also think this is like overall just a song about resignation and accepting things you can't control, and it reminds me very much of that quote about, "If you love someone, let them go," or "If you love something, let it go, and if it's meant to be, it'll come back to you." Because another line in the song is, "This much you must know, we'll meet again." And we also then kind of get a connection to that artistic lens, your romantic relationship as a medium, with "You'll sing to be sweet until then." So they're always producing some form of art that is either their relationship or something that is going to help build their relationship, and the ways they collaborate on that kind of determine how successful the relationship is, which I think clicks in very well when you know the background of Lancaster eventually leaving the band, because how well they collaborate in the band determines how well the band does, but also how well you do within the band. Just to wrap up with some concluding thoughts, this episode has been a day in the making. I think this album, the standout things of this album to me are those themes we talked about love as art. The opener, the midpoint, and the closer I think are beautifully chosen, and I think this album does a very, very, very good job of carrying a narrative in a way that is enjoyable throughout the tracks. To be fair and balanced, I really don't have that many criticisms. The main ones would be it suffers a little bit from early 2000s misogyny, which for me personally isn't that big of a deal, but I do think the album loses some of its staying power as a result. I think we need to work on diction. I think we need to clean up the production, I guess, like the balance between vocals and guitar and drum and bass does get a little muddled sometimes. However, I am interested to see how that changes in later albums with one less guitar player and one less vocalist. So that is kind of less of a criticism and more of a I wonder how that ends up. Instrumentally, the drums really did stand out to me. Before going into this, I thought the like vocals were the best thing in this band, but I really loved the drums in this. So shout out to the drummer, whose name I don't remember right now because there's 6 of you. Also, sometimes when we do these album reviews, I walk out of them not necessarily wanting to listen to more from a band, at least not for a little while. This made me want to listen to more of Mayday Parade, partly because I want to like get some of those questions I raised answered, but also because like I really enjoyed the music and found a different appreciation for the songs I'd already known and a new appreciation for the songs that I had only heard 1 or 2 times before. Speaking of listening to more Mayday Parade, I truly believe that they are the kings of punk goes pop covers. I find for some reason I always return to those albums when the weather starts to change, when it starts to get a little cooler. Just the other day I was listening to Sweater Weather by The Neighborhood that Slaves did a cover of. Very good. But I have Mayday Parade's version of When I Grew Up by the Pussycat Dolls on my playlist, and I was also listening to their cover of In My Head not that long ago. So I think they just bring something fun. I think they really do put the pop in pop punk, which we've seen a few times in this album. So I think that's why their Punk Goes Pop covers work so well. So if you want like a nice little dabble into Mayday Parade, I think that's a fun way to get involved with them. There's also a Punk Goes acoustic album, and they have a song on there called 3 Cheers for... I actually don't know the full name of that song, I'm realizing. I just call it 3 Cheers. But they do it's like a song of theirs. They do an acoustic version of on the Punk Goes acoustic album, and I have a hard time listening to the original version of 3 Cheers now because I think the acoustic version is so good. I find Mayday Parade to be fun and yet sad in a way that feels almost hopeful. Like there's not a single song of theirs that isn't sad in some way, but there is some levity to it. There is some hope for better in it. And I think if I were to do a best of album for this band like we've done in the past, we'd probably be in tears very early on and throughout the entire thing, but I think it would be worth it, and I think we'd enjoy the journey. My top 3 tracks on this album are When I Get Home You're So Dead, Black Cat, and If You Wanted a Song Written About You, All You Had to Do Was Ask. I really enjoyed listening to this album. I would like to make a plea, I suppose, to anyone watching or listening to this. I enjoy doing these album reviews, but sometimes I find them a little bit hard to structure. I think Eleanor and I have come up with a really good way to structure our movie episodes now. We do try and kind of follow, similarly to what I did here, we follow a theme, we follow a narrative of the story, but I do find sometimes it's a little bit harder to do with an album. So if anyone has any suggestions or comments on things they think we're missing from this episode, things they would like to hear us discuss more when breaking down an album, anything along those lines, I would really love some feedback. Just especially when I'm recording by myself, I just kind of like speak into the void, so I know the point I'm trying to get across, and I just want to make sure it's communicated well and that the listener, you, understand that point. So any suggestions, any comments would be greatly appreciated. Please drop them below. You could email us, DM us, whatever. While you're doing all of that, please like and subscribe and follow and all that good stuff. We are here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and you can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Try to be pretty active equally on all of those platforms and just have a good time. So thank you very much for watching. As you can see, it is dark out, so I'm going to go to bed. I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I will see you next week, hopefully in better lighting. Say thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. Don't quote me on that. One day we will have an outro, but it's not today.